Hello and welcome to Applied Anthroposophy Seed Series. I'm Tess Parker. We're here tonight with Penelope Baring, and I hope some of you received the pre-packet of reading, and I will look forward to getting into some of that material tonight. So I'm going to I'm going to turn it over to the folks who will open us with a verse. And also, if you have a candle, I just remembered I was going to light mine. So here we go.
Yeah, welcome everyone. So this is the very beginning of chapter 2, which came out as reading. Also, Angela Foster made an audio recording of that chapter. So if you didn't get a chance, go back and listen or read it. But we will share for our opening verse, the beginning here. So, as citizens of this present time, all of humanity has three great responsibilities.
We feel the needs and sufferings of the earth with her kingdoms.
We are affected by the accomplishments and struggles of human beings on the planet.
We are called to develop a growing awareness of our interconnectedness with the world of spiritual beings and human beings over the threshold.
Through these three great responsibilities, we long to contribute balance, harmony, and peace. Through these three great responsibilities, we strive for the good.
Thank you for that beautiful opening. And I'm welcoming Penelope to our Zoom stage. Not so much as a stage, as a circle, I hope. And she's in my current time zone in California. And we're really working with this theme of initiative and service. And truly, Penelope, it seems like your life has been full of service to the Anthroposophical Society, being a member for over 50 years and a class reader since 1988, member of the Eastern Regional Council and the National Council, and member of the Collegium of the School of Spiritual Science, which we'll hear much more about throughout this hour. And co-writing this book that we sent out, Way of Serving, with co-writing with Rudiger Janisch, who could not be here tonight, unfortunately. He's feeling under the weather. So yeah, we are so happy to have your expertise in the room and your years of service. I'm sure we can feel some of that substance as we open our hearts and minds. So thank you, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for inviting me. I'm going to attempt to do a sort of kind of a word painting of the theme that I was asked to talk about, namely the anthroposophical movement and how it relates to the Anthroposophical Society, how the Anthroposophical Society relates to the School for Spiritual Science, how all of that relates to the world and the needs of the world in terms of the words that were quoted from this chapter 2 of the little book that Rudiger and I wrote together. And I thought to paint this picture, I would begin by saying that what we know now as anthroposophy in the world with all of these entities, it actually had two parents or two beginnings, two roots. One was at the turn of the century when the group, the Theosophical group in Berlin, invited Rudolf Steiner to come and talk to them about Goethe's fairy tale, because they knew he was an expert on the writings of Goethe, and then, of course, realized very quickly that he knew so much more and invited him to become their main lecturer and eventually their leader. So that stream, you could say, was, you could call a stream of knowledge, the stream of learning about the spiritual world, learning about cosmic world history and the relation of the Gospels to spirituality and Western occultism, so many things. The evolution was, of course, from the Theosophical Society to the founding of the first Anthroposophical Society in 1912-13. That was just before the First World War, when everything went into a kind of, not a sleep, because there was a lot of activity, but a sort of a different phase, a turning to the existential needs of those war years and what kind of sustenance Rudolf Steiner felt he could give to his followers. But then the war was over, and we have a situation where you could say the second root is born, and that is the youth movement. Because in many, many ways, what we know now as the anthroposophical movement originated as a youth movement. It originated from people who were born just about the time when Rudolf Steiner began his teaching with the first group, and had their feet really in this 20th century, or that 20th century, who then through their youth, suffered the trials of the war, either went to the front or were just too young to go to the front, but were coming into adulthood just after the war. And what did they meet? They met devastation. They met a complete lack of any answers whatsoever. And it was really through their questions and their worries and their sense of responsibility for the future that they went to Rudolf Steiner, and one after another they asked him for help. And that gave rise to what we have now in countries all over the globe of anthroposophical activity, of Waldorf schools, of doctors and clinics and artists and biodynamic farms and gardens, and so much that has sort of filled our culture, having its roots in anthroposophy, but reaching to people who maybe don't even know about anthroposophy, or just barely, and who say with a little chuckle, so it's something, and I can't even pronounce the name. How often have you heard that? I can't even pronounce the name because their child goes to Waldorf school, or their other child is in a Camp Hill place or another home, and they feel that something has touched them and they really respect it and appreciate it. It's there, but they hardly know it. And then there's, of course, the group that are in those institutions who do the work and know the ways of anthroposophy, but maybe they did their training, but they haven't joined the society. But they're still part of the movement. So the movement is much, much, much bigger worldwide than the the society. The society, on the other hand, is, well, no, there's another thread. So there are those people who have met the practical manifestations and it's touched and changed their lives. There are other people who, because of books, because of all the lectures which slowly have started to become available, they have learned about spiritual science. They've learned about one or the other, sorry, ignore the phone, and just studied it. But they don't even know there's a society. They're just, that's an interesting thing, or maybe one of the many books on spirituality they've read. But that's, in my lifetime, a relatively new phenomenon. When I was in my 20s and even early 30s, everything was only in German. And you couldn't get so many of the books. And if you did, it was, in a photostated copy, or it was, handwritten. I remember once visiting somebody, and on their shelf they had a volume of lectures about Christian Rosenkreuz. And I knew I had to have those lectures, but there were no, copying machines in those days. There was nothing I could do except all during the night in the middle of this conference, hand copy those lectures, and I still have that book. So it was hard to get things. And now, the books are so far spread, and then there's a secondary literature and all the many people that have taken in anthroposophy and made it their own and then worked out of it. So that all of that means that the movement is an enormous body of life. And yet the society, meaning that group of people who decide that they want to take it a little further, is so much smaller. And that's a interesting phenomenon too, because there are people who don't like joining. And that's the reason why they don't join the society, because they are such individuals. And that's so true and real, because nowadays we are meant to be individuals, and we're meant to be standing on our own ground. However, those who are called to the society, those are the ones who want to meet others, who want to have like-minded people to talk to, who want to know about events and come together around themes. And so all this is what's available, because there's a society. This question of relationships within the beinghood, you could say, of Anthroposophia, the conscious relationships. You could say the maybe the more awake relationships through recognizing destiny. Those are my people. I know that this is where I belong. It's finding a homeland for one's soul and spirit unfolding. And it's so beautiful to read what Rudolf Steiner writes in the letters to members about how the meetings should be, and how one takes in the other one and forms imaginative pictures of one another. It's very, very profound. And I think there are those who a little bit diminish the society. They think it's like just a step towards the School for Spiritual Science, which I'll talk about in a minute. But that's sad, because actually the society is really meant to be the place, the ground where we are able to welcome people in and nourish one another with anthroposophy. And that's why the basic books, are often the subject matter of study groups within the branches, or this is the preparing ground, you could say, the nurturing and the working towards the possibility that one would want to take on one's own path for oneself. And even within the branch, one can have support groups, you could say, for working on the sixfold or the eightfold path. There's so many possibilities that are all at the branch level and all have to do with one's destiny at the hand of anthroposophy. But that is a picture that isn't whole unless you imagine that within that context we have a school. And so before I go on talking about that school, I want to then go back again to the situation of around the time of the war, the First World War. Because the first Anthroposophical Society was founded as a conscious break from the Theosophical Society, Western-based, Christian, Christ-centered. And it also had an esoteric component with the esoteric school, which was very, very hidden. And Rudolf Steiner had his private pupils, and then he had brought them together in two different groups, actually, for teaching. And those reports of all those teachings are in volumes that you can get from Steiner books. But all of that had to stop when all those esoteric occult teachings had to stop at the time of the war. And that was because they were hidden. It's interesting. You would think that because they were hidden, they wouldn't have to stop. Partly, of course, they were stopped because of the conflict. And he was often asked why. And he said, because the atmosphere, the spiritual atmosphere over Europe makes it impossible. But the other side of it was that in the basement of the house in Berlin where these things happened, these esoteric events happened, there were, you could call them objects, paraphernalia, different colored lectern and backdrops and so forth, a whole sort of environment that could be created so that people could come into a proper space for receiving the teachings. And it was felt that in a war, those places, nothing is sacred. People could, maybe if they were attacking the house, and they could break down the door and they would discover these things. And so it wasn't felt to be right to let them be there. Everything had to disappear so that nothing could be betrayed. And after the war, on the one hand, that situation I described with the young people came about and went its way with the lecture courses to the farmers and the curative educators and the teachers and the priests and all the practical professional lectures, so the professions were sent on their way. They were grounded and established, or at least begun. But it took longer for the reestablishing of the esoteric side. And that probably had all sorts of different reasons. One of was how much time Rudolf Steiner had to put into the founding of the Waldorf School. For instance, that was a huge, huge task. Then, of course, the completing of the first Goetheanum, the working on the statue. He was so busy, and his lecture tours, of course, where he was becoming, one of the most popular lecturers in Europe, where halls with thousands of people had to be booked, up until the time when it became too dangerous and the insurance cost too much for the people who had to provide the security for him, and they wouldn't let him have these big halls anymore. So there was a lot going on. Culminating, let's say, in the fire, the burning of the first Goetheanum. Because this building, it was really meant to be the home, the house for anthroposophy, not just the plays, the mystery dramas, but the house of the word, the house of destiny, a place where you could go in, and because of the pillars and the windows and the paintings and the carvings and everything that would be on the stage, to meet one would feel as an individual placed into one's destiny. And insofar as one's destiny from a spiritual point of view within the stream of evolution had its meaning, not a general meaning, but a personal, individual meaning. And that, together with the more these other meanings, namely what one would do in life, what profession one would have. So it burned down. It wasn't there. And this event was a little bit like, I don't know, here on the West Coast, we see a lot of sunsets, and I just have to walk a couple of minutes and I'm there, I'm looking out on Monterey Bay, and I see the sun going down. And sometimes, if you're lucky, after the sun has just gone down, there will be a flash of green. It's a radiant green light. I often, Rudolf Steiner uses green as that mediating color that depicts the Christ between the blues and the reds, this middle color, and this is flash of green. And the burning of the Goetheanum had a kind of flash of green after effect, in that not only did he Rudolf Steiner not miss a beat and continue everything the very next day, and nothing was canceled, but almost immediately he started giving lectures about community. And if you look up the dates of the main community lectures that we know about there, 1923. And I think Rudolf Steiner was trying so hard to overcome or to help his colleagues his co-workers in anthroposophy to overcome their sense of their own individualism and their own, also, let it be said, sense of privilege at knowing so much, because they learned so much from anthroposophy, that a certain arrogance, a certain aloofness also from the world, self-importance. He would have long meetings with some of them and trying so hard to help them to see that that wasn't the point. It wasn't about them. It wasn't about what was in their heads. It was a far bigger project, you could say. And this caused, this whole 1923 was a very painful year, I think, for Rudolf Steiner himself, because he wasn't, try as he may one way or another to renew things and say things differently and show them things. There wasn't a lot of listening. And the other thing that went on was a standoff, a very stark standoff between the old anthroposophists who felt they were the ones who deserved the attention because they had been in the esoteric school and they had been so schooled, they were the esoteric pupils of Rudolf Steiner. And why were these upstart youngsters who hardly, done anything, why were they given so much attention and so much time? And try as he may, Rudolf Steiner wasn't able to reconcile these two groups until finally he had to, in the middle of 23, start another society for the younger ones, which was, it was not what he hoped whatsoever. Until finally, end of 23, the lots and lots of inner struggles, Rudolf Steiner told everybody that they would be invited to come to Dornach to a meeting at Christmas. And they came. 800 people came, young ones and old ones. And it's a beautiful book by what's his? Lost his name. Anyway, doesn't matter. There are lots of renditions of personal remembrances of this meeting. And at that Christmas meeting, Rudolf Steiner refounded the society, created a new society, which was, he said, for everybody. It was going to be big enough and wide enough and inclusive enough that race and religion and age and everything was irrelevant. All you had to be was a human being to be part of this society, all embracing worldwide society. And he founded it with the Foundation Stone meditation, which, when you worked with it, you come to realize was the rebirth in mantric form of that building, the first Gudyanam, and has all the elements, the whole picture of the human being and his or her or their path, their destiny, their place in the world and in the cosmos. And so he founded the society at the hand of this Foundation Stone meditation. And then he announced that its core would be a spiritual school. And this spiritual school was for conducting research into those aspects of world need that called in our time. And in order to be able to answer those, to act in terms of that research, to respond, one had to school oneself. And that schooling then became the 19 lessons of the School for Spiritual Science. So the school is actually the path to being able to be a servant of the world, not of other anthroposophists, not of one's own egoistic wish to become special, but of becoming a better tool. And becoming a better tool means to become an instrument of the Spirit. And becoming an instrument of the Spirit means to be awake to the angels and archangels and archai and exousiai, dunamis, kyriotades, thrones, cherubim, and seraphim, all who work into us that we are who we are and that we can do what we do out of our thinking and our feeling and our willing. And over all of that, to be an instrument of the being of love, of the Christ. So as a universal being of love, not a religious somebody who only belongs to some people. So this was what he announced. He only unfolded it later on in the middle of February when it began as the new mystery school, the School of Michael. But what I would wish you could picture is a kind of a fountain-like gesture of a combining of knowledge and will. So these two roots that I talked about from the old ones, the first ones from before the war who learned and took up the esoteric teachings, and the young ones who brought their enthusiasm and their will and their concern. And those eventually could all come under one roof or be in one great society. Home, let's say, which was, and that home really is it's the spiritual Goetheanum. It's the Goetheanum that we can create every time we work with the Foundation Stone meditation. And that Foundation Stone meditation actually is also the grounding, the schooling, you could say, for the entry into the school for spiritual science, because it tunes one into all the different aspects of our humanity, and it helps us to learn how to carry a mantram, a big mantram. So with the person who would like to join the school, they're always asked if they have a practice, which would include the 6 subsidiary exercises, the review of the day, Foundation Stone meditation on a regular basis. And then within the school, Rudolf Steiner said, there are departments which are called the sections. And these sections are all these professions that we talked about before. There's the medical section, and there's the section for teachers, the pedagogical section, and the performing arts section, and the astronomical mathematical section, the agriculture section, the natural science section. So all the professions, that there are more, are within the school. And that's where people who are all belong to that work and who are members of the school can join and work with spiritual content, to do research, to find new answers to new questions. And all of the sections are held. You think of a pie, and each section is a part of the, a piece of the pie, and the whole pie is called the general anthroposophical section, which by general anthroposophical, it's in the booklet, it's described more, but it's that section of our universal humanity. So it's all these teachings, these human teachings of anthroposophy, the image of the human being, of community building, of the religious life, the meditative life, the biography, all these things, these universally human things, which everybody has, no matter where they live or what they look like. That's all part of the substance of the general section, and the heart of the general section are these 19 lessons and this schooling in 19 steps to know what it is to come to the threshold between this world and the spiritual world, and to cross it, and to begin to work with spiritual beings. So one of the questions that the team asked me to talk about was that of collaboration. So let's start with the school. The collaboration in the school is what Rudolf Steiner called the sisters and brothers. He addressed the members of the school as sisters and brothers, as a indication that he felt that all of those who were together were karmically connected. And that karmic connection in lectures, public lectures, he indicated had to do with our past karma with each other, in teachings from Michael that we had in the spiritual world that would prepare us for being in this very materialistic age, and to transform our thoughts from materialistic intellectual thoughts into living spiritually alive thoughts. And through those kinds of thoughts, we would be able to access the help of spiritual beings. But also through our, you could call it the interval between the I and the you, or the sister and the brother. It's almost as though just that interval invites a third participant, invites the added voice from the spiritual world. And one example of that is the collaboration between Ita Wegman, the doctor, and Rudolf Steiner himself. How their spiritual friendship invited, in the same way that in the Bible it says, where two or more are together in my name, there shall I be also, the Christ says. And you could also say in the realm of the new mysteries, where two or more are together in my name, there can new knowledge arise, inspired through me. There's a wonderful lecture from the 6th of February, 1917. There's quite a lot in the beginning of the lecture about other things. And the last 3 pages, Rudolf Steiner talks about asking questions about the future. And that the way to ask, that one can ask and should ask the Christ for answers to one's deepest, most practical questions, but that one has to learn the language that he understands, that the Christ understands, and that we can understand the answers that come from him. And this is the language of spiritual science, which transcends the intellect and goes into that realm of the etheric thinking beyond the senses. So this is the spiritual friendships that you can have. And of course, you don't have to be a member of the school to have those spiritual friendships. You can have those in the society too. There's not a sort of entry ticket. Okay, now I can have my spiritual friends. It's a question of destiny and how one is together in this listening way. And then the second question you asked me to talk about was collaboration with those outside the movement. I think it's a question of our humanity, that we, because we are human and because we have the I sense, the sense of the recognizing of another human being in their humanity, we can perk up our eyes that always another person carries the spirit in them, and they could be just the messenger from the spiritual world that I need, or I could be just the messenger they need. If I come to my limit, I know that the next person I meet might just be that extension of my limitations so that I can be what I need to be or do what I need to do. So there's always, one should always have this open, sensitive membrane to the world, that they are us. We are one in a certain sense in Christ. And then this next one, the collaboration with the spiritual world, I talked about already, this language of the spirit. It's also this language of the spirit which our dead can understand. If we speak to them, they will know that our communication will get through to them. If we speak to them just about sense perceptible things, they will actually not be able to do much with that. So that's, spiritual friendships. I think that's perhaps the deepest form of relationship one can have. I've recently in my life, and maybe in yours, had a good many people cross the threshold in the last months, and I've realized that all the people in my life, anybody I had a conflict with or have lost touch with, I needed to reach out to them, because they and all of us will eventually be together in the spiritual world, and I don't want to lose them. See if there's anything I still wanted to say. Yeah, I think this whole question about serving, I remember when I was a young person and hearing how older mentors and anthroposophists would say. There were two words which they said, and it wasn't just because they were German, that I always heard them in capital letters, capitalized. And the one was work. I have to do my work. And when they said that, I knew they meant their inner work. Of course, outer work can also be inner work. We can do every deed that we do as though it's an altar. The cooking stove can be an altar, and the compost heap can be an altar. It's all offered. But when they said work in a particular way, I knew they meant their inner work, that was their service, their effort to turn up for the spiritual world, you could say, and be there and be ready to hear whatever they might receive as direction, as guidance. And the other word that they said, which seemed to be in capital letters, was, and it always had the article with it, the good. Doing the good. In normal language, you just say doing good. But they would say doing the good. And it might have been a Germanization, but to me, it made the word good into something holy. And so then when I met the Foundation Stone Meditation and I heard the last words, which I'm going to read now before we have our Q&A, it just meant, it had a huge fullness to it for me. So these are the last words of the Foundation Stone Meditation, which Rudolf Steiner said he planted into the hearts of those who were there. And we could also say into all of our hearts. Light divine, Son of Christ, warmed our hearts, enlighten our heads, that good may become what from our hearts we would found, and from our heads direct with single purpose. And he said then at the very end of the Christmas meeting where he founded the society, carry these hearts with the meditation in it, carry your hearts into the world to work there with strength and healing. And help will come to you, that your heads may be enlightened to direct with single purpose what you have here resolved upon. We make this resolution now with all our strength, and we shall see, if we prove worthy of it, a good star will prevail over what is here intended. Follow this good star, my dear friends, and we shall see whither the gods will guide us by its light. Light divine, Christ's Son, warm our hearts, enlighten our heads. So, I think that's what I wanted to share. I hope it was clear. I apologize for having my eyes closed so much. It's because I draw the words out of myself and I have to picture them first. So I'm not looking at you, but I am seeing you.
Thank you, Penelope. Wow. Wow. I feel just so much of that history you brought, and I feel so connected to a larger community just from how you characterized and brought all those pictures. And yeah, I feel like I just deepened my own experience as a part of the Anthroposophical Society. So thank you bringing this beautiful images to us. And again, yeah, we'll have some time for Q&A. So if you want to be thinking of any questions, we'll have about 10 minutes before we transition. I had a question that came in the chat from Jolie. Could you talk a little more about the need to resolve conflict before we die?
Yeah. Here we have freedom. We can make decisions. We can change things. We can overcome ourselves, you could say, out of our strength of ego, our self. When we cross the threshold, our I, ourself, becomes like our physical body. It becomes unfree. What it has to do then is deal with the consequences of everything we've done on earth, and with the hierarchies works to figure out how in the next life we can do that dealing with and balance. But we can't change anything. It's all done. So anything at all that you can change now, better think about and see what can be done. And I say that knowing that there's some things which honestly don't seem to be changeable. What choice we have, though, is our relationship to it. If a person is unwilling to engage in a transformation of a relationship, we are still free to forgive them and to pray for them and to have compassion for them, and many, many things we can do, even if it's not mutual. So I hope that.
Thank you. There's a couple questions about sort of the actual how the school is set up. The difference between the school and the class being is the class of division of the school, and how you brought it, it sounded like it's the spiritual path that supports members of the school. And I might just you can speak to that, but I'm also going to combine the sections. If one has a background in regard to more than one profession, how would they determine what section they're in? So a couple of logisticals, people wanting to know more.
Okay, I'll answer the second one first. You can belong to many sections. Everybody belongs to the general anthroposophical section as soon as you become a class member or a member of the school. The two terms are interchangeable. So everybody is a member of that, of the general anthroposophical section, and then you can be a teacher who's also interested in the arts, and or a teacher who is a eurythmist, so you can become part of the performing arts section and the pedagogical section, or any mixture. So that's very open and free. So the first question, when you join the society, you get a pink card, which is hardly ever asked for because most events are open to members and friends. But when you join the School for Spiritual Science, often called the first class, you get a blue card, and that allows you to go to class lessons. And every class lesson is the unfolding of a meditation. 19 lessons, or it is a path of 19 lessons which unfold and present 19 different mantras. Some are bigger and some are shorter, but they're dense, they're complex mantras. And each one is a step on one's path, as I said, towards the threshold between this world and the spiritual world and beyond it, together with spiritual the spiritual hierarchies. So going to class lessons is something you can do as a member of the school. But there are also other things, events that can happen. There can be conferences of the School for Spiritual Science, which would be on maybe different themes, for which you would have to show that you were a member of the school. But it's yeah, and then as a member of the school, you can apply to join a section, and all the different sections have different ways of applying, and you can find out, I think, on the society website who to contact. But I should have said another thing. One of the requirements to join the school is to be a member in good standing, that means having paid your dues, of the society for 2 years. And that is for a number of reasons. One is so that you have time, if you're a new anthroposophist, to work with the basic books, get to know this language of anthroposophy. Time to incorporate an inner practice, and particularly the foundations of meditation. Time to make friendships and relationships so that you really can know for yourself, is this my stream? Because it's definitely not a healthy thing to join a mystery school, which this is, when you're already a part of another kind of teaching and inner practice. So it's a sorting out, karmic sorting out for oneself. Is this my stream? And am I to join this mystery school? Have I covered the question?
I think so. Yeah, that was wonderful. And we're kind of towards the end, and I just want to ask you to maybe bring one more thing in. You were telling us before about this collaboration with Rudiger about the book and the road trip, and I just wondered if you could mention how that way of serving came to be, and I think that'll be a lovely way to close.
Okay, thank you. It came about through a spiritual friendship. We were both young people in our 20s. Rudiger was in Camp Hill in Germany, and I was in Camp Hill in the United States, and we were part of an international Camp Hill youth group. And later in life, he came to the States, and we found ourselves together as representatives of the general anthroposophical section in the collegium of the School for Spiritual Science, which is a body of representatives from all the different sections on this continent, Canada and the United States, which meets twice a year to collaborate and share information and do research. So Uddara and I were both part of that. And we both were constantly being asked questions about the general anthroposophical section, and about what is it, and how do you do it, and what are the practices. And we realized that we better put it all together. And so we were one day on a road trip driving together from Pennsylvania up to Copiague, where I lived. And we were talking about this. Shouldn't we do something? Shouldn't we write a book? And Rudiger was driving, and I didn't have any paper. I just had the back of an envelope and a pen. And so as we talked, I wrote notes, and on the trip, we basically wrote the chapter titles for the whole book and committed to write it together. So which we did over the next few months. And it was wonderful that Mercury Press at the fellowship in Spring Valley offered to publish it. And just to say, hopefully it will be available now that that's closed. It will hopefully be available through Steiner Books.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah.
They've got what's left, and they will advertise them, and then they'll print more, I hope. So
wow, Penelope, thank you so much. I feel like I'm taking away so much richness and this spiritual friendship piece is so important to me, and I'm so glad that you could bring so much to our community tonight. So thank you. And someone asked about that Christmas conference title. So if it comes up in your brain, I think people might want to know about that book you mentioned on the Christmas conference. Maybe you.
There are lots of books on the Christmas.
Yeah, it's okay. I think you can't go wrong is the answer.
So shall I write those titles to you and by email?
If you remember, yeah, thank you.
Gladly.
So we are going to send Penelope off into her sunset with the green flash, and we'll be doing some eurythmy, which is such a treat, with Sienna for the next portion. So those of you who can stay, we'll take a break, a 5-minute break, and come back and do eurythmy. So that's so exciting. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. All the very best. Thank you for doing this work, all of you. It's just so important. God bless. Stay safe.
Thanks, Penelope. All right, we're back for our sort of fun addition. And it'll help, I think, to digest that session with some eurythmy. So thank you. I'm going to pass it over to you, Sienna.
Thank you, Tess. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. I would like to ask, I'm going to put my gallery view on so I can see your faces. Can I just ask who has done eurythmy before? Can you just raise your hand if you've done eurythmy? Yeah, keep them raised because I have to switch screens and just get a sense. Okay, so quite a few of you, almost not all of you, but many of you have done eurythmy before. Thank you. You can put your hands down. I'm excited that I have a little bit more time than usual because I wanted to just begin with giving you a little context out of this picture that we've just been given of the beginning of the school and the society. And the art of eurythmy actually was born in this time around 1911, 1912, when this society was being founded. And for those of you who don't know, the art of eurythmy is a movement art that is a new impulse that came from the wish of one of the close students of Rudolf Steiner. And I won't go into the history of eurythmy right now, but I just wanted to place it in the context of this new beginning. And the art of eurythmy is this art which strives to bring the human being as a speaking, singing human being into the world. And eurythmy really is a daughter of anthroposophy, or a sister. And I just want to acknowledge that and just say thank you so much to all of you for being interested in this art of life, which comes through anthroposophy, through eurythmy. Yeah, so thank you for being interested. And now I'm going to attempt to bring you some eurythmy from the Foundation Stone meditation, which was so exciting to hear that was going to be presented tonight, because I had that idea to share some of the first 3 panels of the Foundation Stone meditation. So what we heard tonight was part of the 4th and the last part of the Foundation Stone meditation. And there are 3 preceding parts. And each of those 3 preceding parts has a relationship to different parts of the human soul. And the human soul is addressed at the beginning of each of these aspects of the meditation. And first it starts with human soul. You live within the limbs. And then the second panel, human soul, you live within the beat of heart and lung. And the third panel begins, human soul, you live within the resting head. So there we get this picture of the threefold human being. And I want us to explore that a little bit in movement. And I hope that you'll bear with me. I've never tried this in this context on Zoom before. And I'd like to ask for your patience and forgiveness as I navigate this. So first I'm going to ask you to just draw 3 little forms down. I want you to look at this screen if you can see it. And the top one is like a triangle, but but it's not super straight. So the one on the top, and you can start either right or left. It doesn't matter. So you have the point in the back, and you go to the right or to the left, forward, straight across the top, and then back home again. So a triangle with curved lines. And then the second form is a horizontal lemniscate, or figure 8 on its side. And again, I drew a point and then an arrow, but you can start either way. It doesn't have to be one or the other. The main thing is just that form, that movement. And then the third one is a circle, which seems simple. And in a way it is. And it's also very profound. So you have the triangle at the top, this horizontal lemniscate in the middle, and the circle at the bottom. And if you need another half a minute, I'll just hold it here for a second. And so now you can forget about that. So forget about those drawings for a moment, put them down, and now I want to invite you to just see everyone on the screen. We know that we're not flat. We know we're real people. We're actually in space and time. We are actually warm, and this medium is cold. So we have to bring our own heart warmth to this activity. And so we're just going to look. You can flip screens and just see all those amazing people that are here, and some of them don't have their video on. That's fine. That's great. Yeah, so now we're going to leave those boxes and step to the side of our computer. Those of you who have done Eurythmy with me before on Zoom know that this is how I like to do it. I don't like to have you looking at the screen, so I want to invite you to look past your screen at a wall or a window or at the door or something other than the screen. And I'm going to just give you a half a minute, which doesn't seem like a very long time, but just take a half a minute to move however you want to move. So if you want to stretch, if you want to run around the room, if you want to take little tiny movements or big movements, whatever you want to do, just take a half a minute and move freely, coming into your own body as a moving body. You can even just walk around the room. And as you do this, I want to invite you to notice the way that your thinking is affected by how you move. So just noticing what thoughts you're having, noticing how you're feeling, and noticing how your arms and legs and head are moving, just becoming aware of yourself moving. Now I want to invite you to stop and actually just come to standing. And I want you to picture a beautiful bouquet of roses in front of you. Or maybe you don't like roses. If you don't like roses, imagine your favorite flower, whatever flower you love. Beautiful large bouquet of flowers right in front of you. They're at about your heart height, and they're only a few feet away, so they're very close. And taking your hands to your own heart for a moment, feel your own warmth Feel your own heartbeat, your own breathing, and then allow that warmth of your heart to go through your arms as you open your arms with awe and wonder at this beautiful bouquet of flowers in front of you. And then letting that go. And now imagine someone in front of you that you admire. And again, placing your hands on your heart. And now opening your arms with awe and wonder at this person that you admire in front of you. And then bringing your hands back to your heart, and one last time picturing that beautiful bouquet of flowers there, a gift from this earth, and giving your attention to this beautiful bouquet of flowers, opening your arms with awe and wonder, and lean back onto your heels a little bit so you can allow that bouquet of flowers to come towards you. You receive this beautiful bouquet of flowers with awe and wonder. And your arms are outstretched in front of you in an angle. So they're open in an angle in front of you. And then let that go. And now I want to invite you to imagine the most amazing star-filled sky you've ever seen. So perhaps it's the darkest place you've ever been, shooting stars, Milky Way, Aurora Borealis, whatever it is. And I'd like to invite you to open your arms to that sky above you in awe and wonder at this incredible glory of the heavens above you. Stretching your arms above your head and opening your arms to the sky with awe and wonder. And then letting that go. And once again, imagining that sky above you and opening your arms to the sky above your head, open with awe and wonder. And letting that go. And now, imagining this earth beneath you, imagining all of the rivers and the oceans and the waters, all of the mountains and the valleys, everything that this incredible earth holds, including all the living beings, plants, animals, minerals, human beings. And with awe and wonder, open your arms down to the earth. Opening with awe and wonder to the earth beneath you, and let your legs also open. So your legs go from one side to the next and you're standing in a wide angle and your arms are open wide to the space beneath you, to the earth under your feet, with awe and wonder. And then letting go, coming back to regular standing position. And once again, we're going to open to the earth beneath us with awe and wonder, opening our arms and our legs to this earth beneath us, standing open stance on the ground in this angle of awe. And so coming back, bringing your feet together, I'd like to also ask you now to speak the sound ah into the space. No one can hear you, you're on mute, so you can just belt it out. Sing a beautiful vowel, ah. Notice what your mouth does. Notice what your larynx, your speech organs do. You're opening the back of your throat in this ah sound. And now that we're warming up our palate, our speaking organs, I want to invite you to speak the sound oh. And you can sing it like a song, oh, and really let it sound out. And do that again and notice what happens to your mouth, what happens to your lips. the placement of this vowel is much further forward in your mouth. And go back to ah, say ah again, feel it's nice and back in the back of your mouth. And oh comes forward. And now finding the middle place between the ah and the o, right in the middle of your speech organism, the sound E. And go ahead and you can even sing it loud and long, E, and let it sound. Good. And now on your own, I want you to just play with for a half a minute these sounds, ah, o, and E, and finding how you move through these sounds in your own speaking. From the back of your throat to the middle of your mouth to this O which comes into the lips further forward. Good. And so we've explored the sound ah very briefly in eurythmy with this gesture of openness and receptivity in awe and wonder. And now I want to invite you to imagine a beautiful tree, one of the most glorious trees you've ever seen, one that's just about big enough for your arms to fit around. So imagine that tree standing there, beautiful tree, and you go out to this tree and you wrap your arms around the tree. And you wrap your arms around the tree so much that you become one with the tree. You go outside of yourself, becoming one, uniting with the spirit of this tree. And then letting that go. Once again, imagining the tree there, and around the tree, your arms envelop with this sense of embrace and inclusion, and you become one with this spirit of the tree. And we'll do that one more time, and inwardly you can hear the sound O. Once again, same thing. And now remembering that starry sky above your head, and now you're going to do that same gesture that you did with the tree, but to the stars above you. You raise your arms over your head and you encircle the starry realm above your head, making this round gesture of O above you, becoming one with the starry heavens above your head. And then letting that go, remembering the earth beneath your feet, and again here, the same gesture of O, embracing the realm of the earth beneath you, so your arms are down next to your legs, but in front of you, this beautiful O, round, encircling the earth, becoming one with it. And then letting that go. And now finding that place in the middle. So this gesture of the quality of the sound E, which is stretching. So first feel that your left hand is holding on gently to the earth down at your left side. Your right hand is reaching up to the heavens, stretching through your right hand, touching the starry heavens above you, but you stand poised between these two realms, radiant, shining, upright, quality of E. And letting go. And now we're going to do that same thing, but with the arm at our middle, right at the heart realm. So just allow your right arm to go out in front of you, stretching in front of you, reaching out, E, in this stretching in front of you. And letting go. One last time, allow that right arm to go all the way down to the earth, this quality of E, radiant, shining light into the earth. In all three realms. So letting that go. And I bring these three sounds because they come very strongly for the eurythmy forms given to us for these first three panels of the Foundation Stone meditation. And also they come in the fourth panel. And I want you to now forget about all of that for a moment. We'll bring that back in just a second. But I want to ask you to now take a step forward to your right. Just one step forward to your right and put your feet together. And now one step to your left and put your feet together. And one step back to your right and put your feet together. So you really make a point, you bring your feet together. We'll do that same thing again. Forward to your right, one step, feet together. To your left, one step, feet together. To your back to your right, one step, feet together. What we've just done is something like what you've drawn. So you've drawn this rounded triangle. So now I want to ask you to do it again. And first you're going to take one step forward to your right with this sound E down to the earth, stretching your right arm down to the earth. And your feet are together. One step to your left, bring your feet together and open your arms with the ah down to the earth. Opening. And one step back to where you started, put your feet together and this oh, embracing the earth beneath you. We'll do that one last time. I won't say it. I think you can follow your form and also what you remember and just inwardly feel the heaviness of earth beneath you and imagine that you take a big velvet cape with you all around you and you do it on your own. And here we have this first panel quality. Human being, you live within the limbs. And as you can imagine, I want to do the whole Foundation Stone meditation with you, but I only have 2 minutes. So what I want you to do now is remember this sound ah, remember the sound E, remember the sound O, for the middle realm. So what we did with our arms in the middle, the stretching of the E in the middle, the opening of the ah to the flowers, and the embracing of the tree. And I'd like you to just take a minute on your own and explore this lemniscate in movement. So perhaps you go to the right with the ah, and then you come to the middle of the lemniscate with the E. And then you go to the left around the lemniscate with the O. Just take a moment to explore that on your own, this realm of the middle. Human being, you live within the beat of heart and lung. And this is something that you can continue to play with on your own. And I want to just end with giving us this picture of the third panel of the Foundation Stone, human being, human soul. You live within the resting head. So stand with your feet together. And now imagine that your feet are the point of a cone. And the cone opens up to the heavens. So you have this huge cone above your head that's as large as the starry heavens. And just opening your arms to this huge cone above your head, you're going to make this circle that we drew, any circle, any direction. around your head, this massive, massive space above you, but your feet stay almost in standing, maybe one step in each direction. But the cone opens up to the heavens above you. And feeling this E above your head, the Ah opening above your head, and the O opening and enclosing the starry heavens above you. And so now you have something to play with on your own, and I'm going to invite you to come back to the computer for a moment so we can say goodbye. I'm sorry, I was so excited. I thought I had so much time, but as you know, we could go on for a long time with this. So over to you to play with these forms, with these sounds, and have a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sienna. Yeah, I think we can take it on our own. I think you really set us up so clearly as you do to be able to really take it in and not look with a certain mind or other way of really understanding. So thank you for your special way of bringing it. And yeah, I'm going to allow us to unmute so we can be real people and say goodbye. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sienna.
Such a beautiful way.
Very beautiful.
You too.
So much.